Shalom, shalom, Kol Yisrael. This is Netanyahu coming at you again with some more videos dealing with the Halacha of our people. In this video, I would like to touch on the commemoration of the temple and when it was destroyed, referred to as Tisha B'Av. Now, in regards to Tisha B'Av, this is the 5th month of the Hebrew year in which it falls, and it was during this time of Tisha B'Av where both the first and second temple were destroyed. And an interesting note also about Tisha B'Av is that it's also the day when the 10 spies came back unto Moshe with the evil report of the land. So just something to be noted. So in this video I'll be dealing with Tisha B'Av and how to observe this day. So first I would like to give all honor and praise be to the Most High, Hallelujah, and may Kol Yisrael turn back unto the forever ways of our forefathers and the rulings that were set forth. So I would like to start off going to the book of Zechariah. And in the book of Zechariah, I will be reading from the 7th chapter and the first 3 verses. And it says, "It happened in the 4th year of King Darius that the word of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh came to Zechariah on the 4th day of the 9th month in Kislev. Shar-Ezer, as well as Regem-Melech and his associates, had sent a message to Bethel to beseech Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh and to speak their question to the Kohanim, the priests, of the temple of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, master of legions, and to the prophet, saying, Should I weep in the 5th month, abstaining from pleasures, as I have been doing for many years?" So we see from here that the keeping of Tisha B'Av, and that our people set this day apart, if you will, as a remembrance for the temple being destroyed, both the times when it was destroyed by the Babylonians and when it was destroyed by the Romans, both falling on Tisha B'Av. So this was something that was understood by our forefathers, and they remembered the day through their keeping of it. So some of the things dealing with Tisha B'Av, some facts that happened around that time. It was understood amongst our sages that the idolaters entered into the temple on the 7th day of Av, and they were eating and drinking and performing many acts that, as Hebrews, we know shouldn't be performed in the land, and especially not in the temple. And they were doing this throughout the 7th and the 8th day of Av. And then it was on the 9th day of Av, toward evening, when they set the temple ablaze. And the temple continued to burn throughout the 10th day and finished burning in the evening on the 10th day of Av. So things that we can do as Hebrews in exile, and as we remember the temple, as we turn toward Jerusalem, and we await the building of the new temple for this day, things that us as Hebrews that we should do. We should remove our leather shoes. If we have shoes with leather in them, they should be removed. On this day, we should be sitting on the ground. We shouldn't be sitting in chairs or on benches. We should be sitting on the ground because it is a day of mourning. On this day, we should read the book of Lamentations. Make sure that you read it slowly, tearfully, remembering the mourning that we are doing on this day. Because, I mean, it's a very sad thing that our temple, the temple of the Most High, was destroyed. And, us being in exile, what better way to remember this day but to set it apart in remembrance as Kol Yisrael. For that night, on the 9th of Av, for people that are sleeping, you should try to make your sleep more at a discomfort than it normally would be. And this really goes on the comfortability of the spiritual level of each individual. An example that I can give is if you sleep on a bed and you normally sleep with 2 pillows, remove one of the pillows. That's one example. Another example could be if you know you have your bed with your sheets and your comforter, remove the comforter. It really falls on the spirituality of the individual and how they want to discomfort their sleep that night, because we are in a state of mourning. Some other things that should be done in the morning on that 10th day of Av is to not don your talit gadol. For those that do own a talit gadol or a prayer shawl, to not don it that day. For those that have a talit katan, or the 4-corner garment in which one would have their tzitzit attached, they are still to don the talit katan that day, but the bracha, or the petition that is said when donning your tzitzits is not to be said on that day. The prayers that you do in the morning on that 10th day, they should be done slowly and tearfully as well. Still, you're in that state of mourning, because throughout this whole time the temple was burning. So you're in a state of mourning during this time. You should recite Psalms 100 at this time as well during your morning petitions. And also, what should be said is the wording Baruch HaShofet Emet, which means benevolent is the just judge, or benevolent is the true judge. Because by you saying this, you are acknowledging that the Most High judged our people justly. You know, it was our fault that we turned away from the mitzvot, that we turned away from the Torah of our forefathers that was given unto Moshe from the Most High. So it's our fault that the temple was burning. So by us saying this, we're acknowledging that the Most High is the just judge. And after saying this, you should recite in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verses 25 through 40. That should be said at that time as well. Also, one should recite from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 8, verse 13, through Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 23. That should also be recited at that time. Now, another interesting thing about Tisha B'Av is that everyone should remain idle from any Torah study, because Torah study does gladden the heart and lighten the eyes, as we know from Psalms 19. So we are in a state of mourning, so we shouldn't be gladdening and joy during this time. We should be in mourning. So Torah study should be idle during this time. Now, things that can be read, the Book of Lamentations should be read. And also the Book of Job can also be read and studied during that day. Any verses dealing with consolation, or a regathering, if you will, the happy side of what will occur on now that the curses have been laid out. Well, now when you turn back here, the increases that will come, those verses should be skipped over at that time. And also verses that are dealing with the judgment or the retribution that will come on the nations, those verses should also be skipped over at this time, because it's not the nation's fault that our temple was destroyed. We need to remember that, Kol Yisrael. It was not them and their, them coming in and, we're going to destroy the temple. No, it was because we turned away from the Torah. So we need to remember that. Also, washing for pleasure is prohibited, but any necessary washing you should do. An example I can give of this is the way of observing Tisha B'Av is very similar in a way to how we observe Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. For Yom Kippur, you wouldn't wash for pleasure. Tisha B'Av, you don't wash for pleasure. When you wake up in the morning, of course, still washing your hands, your face like you would normally do, but, taking a nice hot shower or whatever, it should be avoided. Also, but and also when you use the bathroom, after you use the bathroom, definitely washing your hands at that point, because that's not for pleasure. Um, if a woman has her mikvah during that night, she's gone through her 14 days of separation, and it's time for her to perform a mikvah. She should not perform a mikvah on that night if her mikvah were to fall on that night. And also, sex, marital relations should also be avoided during this time. When it comes to greetings, any extended greetings or asking about somebody's welfare, that should also be avoided. Now, if a Gentile were to greet you during this time, you can respond in a very soft tone, just so that there's no grievances formed against you from the Gentile, because they don't know you're in a state of mourning, so you can't snap at them and get mad at them, but, just responding in a soft tone. But fellow Hebrews, we would know that we're all in a state of mourning during this time. Also, no leisure strolls at the park or, whatever it might be. We're in a state of mourning, so that stuff should be avoided. Now, if you have time-consuming work to do, if it can be avoided, try to avoid it. If it's going to cause you any serious loss in any kind of way, then you got to do what you have to do. But if it can be avoided, it should be avoided. And like I said earlier, we're not supposed to sit in chairs or on benches. We should be sitting on the ground. And also, for the afternoon, once the afternoon has passed, for example, Tisha B'Av starting that evening when the temple was being burned, we should avoid sitting on any chairs or benches until the following afternoon and thereafter. Now, granted, our sages would say that somebody who doesn't do it for the entire duration is praiseworthy. So just to note that. But if you were to sit on a chair or a bench, just try to make sure that you do it after the afternoon has passed that following day, which would be on the 10th day of Av. Some other things: when you should be stringent not to eat any meat or to drink wine on the night of the 10th of Av, because that's when our temple was done burning, or it was just finishing up burning. So meat and wine is something that is akin to a celebration. So that should be avoided on that time, because we're not celebrating that our temple was destroyed. There's nothing to celebrate about that. So just to keep that in mind. Also, it's proper to not engage in any marital relations that night as well, on the 10th night. Now, granted, if a woman's mikvah night was that night, unlike the night of the 9th, then that's okay. Or if one of the spouses was about to leave and go away on a trip, then marital relations would be okay on that night as well. Now, during this time also, we should fast. Everyone who is capable of fasting should fast. In certain situations where somebody can't fast, if they're ill, or if it's a woman who has just given birth, and she's still within that 30 days after the birth, and her body is replenishing on nutrients, then for those people that there is a leniency. If they feel that they have enough strength to fast, then it would be good to do so. But there is leniency for those situations if health is a concern at that time. Now, when Tisha B'Av falls on a Shabbat, as it does this year, we know that for Shabbat we're not supposed to fast on a Shabbat. So the fasting is postponed until the 10th of Av. So one should have their last meal on that Shabbat before the Bein HaShomesh, or the transition of the day, when it's transitioning to twilight. So one should have their meal before this time, and then their feast would start, or their fast, their fast would start. Now, something else, people, we should not listen to music, because, music is akin to celebration. It's akin to, joy and gladdening the heart. So music should be avoided. Something else is reciting Psalms 137, verses 5 and 6. And that's the verse that speaks about us not forgetting Jerusalem, us not forgetting, where our temple was built. And that is how we should really end off our keeping on our memorial of Tisha B'Av. Now, we do have sages in antiquity that would keep their fast, or they would keep these stringencies all the way through from the 9th and the 10th. Granted, we know that this year the 9th starts on a Shabbat, but I just wanted to note that for going forward, because next year I'm pretty sure it's not going to be falling on a Shabbat. So just to be noted going forward, some things that we should do. So Kol Yisrael, that's really all I have to share about Tisha B'Av. It's definitely something that we should keep in memory as Kol Yisrael, as children in the diaspora, as we await the building of our third temple. We await the ingathering and the return of the Most High to Jerusalem, to his temple site. So just in memory of really our faults, we have to acknowledge that we went off. Our forefathers went off, and many of us still go off in this generation. So Tisha B'Av being when the 10 spies came and gave the bad report on the land. And in a sense, that was the Most High saying, okay, well, if you're going to give the bad report on the land that I already said was increased, then I'm going to make this day a day of mourning for you. And subsequently in our history, the temple twice was destroyed on Tisha B'Av. So it's something that should be noted. We need to keep our reverence and our honor to the Most High. So Kol Yisrael, I hope that that this video is timely. Tisha B'Av this year, and the 10th falls on September 13th and 14th on the Gregorian calendar. So just to be noted, I hope this video is timely, and that many do see it in their hearts to keep the memory and the mourning of our temple as we await the building of the new one. So I'll end this video with Hallelujah. Kol Yisrael, let's continue to rise and turn back to the ways of our forefathers and keep the Torah high, always and forever. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom.